Thank you so much, Rabbi Rapport. What a beautiful service. And thank you, Rachel Chang. And as I said, the first time you led, and this is now your second time leading on a Friday night, it's wonderful to break down some of the silos that exist in our Zoom world. Shabbat morning is so different now, and you have to actually go to that service very consciously. And you've been such a wonderful leader and teacher in our children's program, and your voice is beautiful, and your neshama is just shines through with your musical leadership. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And a huge shout out to Patrice Ruel and to Jason Zivic for saving us from the tech anxiety when Jason's internet went down and he had to dash into his car to find some internet, and Patrice was making it all work here at CBST. So, whew, we all made it, and it's been a little rocky dealing with the internet, which is just God's way of reminding us we're not in control, and how we respond to the difficulties is what tells us where our souls are located. So thank you again to Jason and to Patrice for getting us back online. But remember, it always is a test of us. We're given tests all the time. How do we deal with crises? And when we're so dependent on the internet, when the internet goes down, wow, such a feeling of being disconnected. So there's a lesson there, but that's not my Devar Torah for tonight. So I also want to thank all those who participated in tonight's service. And how beautiful to see Eviatar Ger and Yonatan Ger participate. Our Limud program includes children from Israel who find our program deeply moving and welcoming of them. And to our bar mitzvah for tomorrow, Alex, Mazel Tov, looking forward to the service tomorrow morning so much. And to Harold Levine and to House of Peace, so beautiful to put that video compilation together that we'll share with all of our Muslim friends when Ramadan ends this coming week and the celebration of Eid begins. And yes, there are so many things we're looking forward to as the world opens up in ways that will challenge us and in ways that we welcome. So thank you, everybody who participated in that video. And so tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which we just acknowledged. This Shabbos is called Mevorchim Shabbos. We bless the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh. We always take a moment to bless, to announce the new moon, so that we all remember when it happens, it's coming. With the beginning of the month of Sivan, this coming week, as we just announced, we enter into the month in which the holiday of Shavuot is observed. And by the way, on Monday or Tuesday, you'll be getting a full email with all of the details about CBST's observance of Shavuot this year. And it includes some very special things, and it shows the movement of where we are. Sunday night, May 16th, we'll be having our Tikkun Leil Shavuot. Our Mariv service and Tikkun will be on Zoom, and we'll be having classes, and we'll be studying all different aspects related to the book of Ruth. And then on Monday afternoon, on May 17th, we're going to do our first outdoor text study, only open for 20 people, and it's only going to be open for members, and the information for signing up, and it'll be in northern Manhattan with Rabbi James. So that will be officially our first open event in CBST's life in whatever months this is. Was it 14 months, 15 months, whatever it's been. And we're going to start with a small number of 20. It's going to be outdoor. Everybody has to be vaccinated, wear masks. We're going to practice different protocols. And in June, please God, as long as the world keeps moving in the direction it is, we're going to start having congregants in our sanctuary for services that we lead from there. A small number. And again, everybody will have to be vaccinated and wear masks inside. And we'll only have a small number, probably between 30 and 40 people. But we're taking our mini steps and making sure we're doing it thoughtfully and carefully and deliberately, and we appreciate everybody's patience with it. So watch out for this news and information as it comes. So in this month of Sivan, we move from Iyyar to Sivan, and we start winding down on the counting of the Omer. And we go to day 49, which is Shavuot itself, from the counting of the day after Pesach begins. So it's 49 days. And in the counting of the calendar, that turns out to be the 6th of Sivan. It's the only holiday we have in the Bible that doesn't have its own date. We only know how many days it is after Pesach. Now, the book of Ruth, which we traditionally study on Shavuot, has some very powerful lessons in it, all related to the mitzvah, to the obligation of Gemilut Chasadim, of offering acts of loving kindness in the world. And I want to talk a little bit about that as we prepare for Shavuot in a world which has felt so devoid. And those of us here in this community in our lives have worked so hard to find the place inside of us from which we can engage in acts of loving kindness to the extent we can in a world which is full of so much cruelty. The book of Ruth opens famously with Ruth and her family, her sons and their wives, leaving in order to escape from a famine. The Midrash tells us, by the way, and the sons and her husband die. And the Midrash on this asks the question, why does the book start with the deaths of these 3 men? And what's happening there with the famine? So the Midrash tells us that they themselves were not starving. They themselves were not starving. This was not a situation where this family was starving and seeking food. But the Midrash says in Ruth Rabbah, which is the Midrash on Ruth, that the point of this is the beginning of the book teaching us about Gemilut Chasadim, the imperative of acts of loving kindness. How? And I'm quoting this how, and I'm quoting from the Midrash. These families did have food, but they left because they did not want to share it with those who did not. So in other words, they were punished on some level because they didn't die from starvation, according to this one Midrash. They were being punished because they were trying to run away from where there was famine, because they were trying to protect their resources from having to share it with people who did not have. So the book of Ruth, according to the Midrash, starts with the imperative that whatever we have, we can't be so afraid of not having enough that we don't share it with those who have less. Let me repeat that. The book of Ruth starts out and then continues to teach in many different ways that whatever we have, we are obligated to share it. We must not fear that by sharing it, we won't have enough, and that it's an obligation to share with people who have less than we have. Now, we're told we can't give tzedakah to the point of being so poor that we need it ourselves. But no matter how poor we are, we do have to give a percentage of our own financial resources to tzedakah. Nobody is exempt from giving, whether it's food, whether it's money, whether it's love. We're all obligated. And we know the story of Ruth. Once the men die, Ruth says, you can all leave me now because there's no reason to stay with me. I'm not going to have more sons. And Naomi says the famous words, where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. Where you live, I will live. And where you die and you are buried, I will be too. So we have the story evolves from having resources of tangible things like money and food and being told we must be giving. So the contrast that Ruth and Naomi are sharing with each other, not food and money, but love, and not withholding it at a moment where it's profoundly needed. Naomi says this, that I am giving you the one thing I have to offer, which is not money necessarily, and it's not resources, but it's love, it's companionship. In your mourning, in your isolation, what I can offer you, I can't make it all better. There is no magic wand I can wave and cure all the problems you're experiencing in your life. But this is the model of a human being saying, I'm not going to run away from your grief. I'm not going to run away from your pain. I'm going to sit here and hold your hand. I'm going to stay with you. I'm not leaving. Your pain, your grief, your sadness doesn't frighten me. I am offering you the gift of love and of loyalty. So the story of Ruth starts out with this profound contrast. Those who will not share what they have, even if they have something, and then somebody sharing what they have and not being afraid of not having enough. As we move from the place of lockdown and of the worst of COVID and not knowing what the future will be, we all have experienced in different ways in our lives, people, things, animals that have been the source of strength for us. And we've experienced generosity of spirit and of gemilut chasadim. We must, as we move into this time of Shavuot, the Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, examine where we have received when we've been in moments of lacking. From where we have received strength when we have felt vulnerable and weak. From what have we gotten that has given us something? And in what ways have we been able to offer someone else when we haven't known what it is to offer? If you have thoughts about that, share it in the chat as you're thinking about it. As we're moving from the place of lacking and of lockdown and of very little in our lives of stimulation, so to speak, and we shift back to a place where maybe there's too much stimulation, where have we gotten strength? So I want to share a story about this because Torah is found everywhere. The ability to learn, to have our eyes open, to see, to take from something that's visible all the time, but to take from it and see it in a new way. That is what it is to be a human being on a spiritual journey of openness and of seeking. The Holy One is always transmitting messages. I often use that image, that the transmitter is always on. The question is our receiver open? Do we have the biggest possible receiver on our roofs collecting the transmission? Or are we just bumbling along and saying, I'm not getting any messages, because the messages are there. Are they there in the little beautiful purple, those little purple flowers? I don't even know their names that are on the ivy and the beautiful, are they there in the spectacular sunsets we're seeing in New York City? Is this new, these sunsets, or is this somehow related to the time we're in? But we're seeing sunsets in New York City like I've never seen in my lifelong New Yorker-esque. Are we seeing it in little acts of love and of kindness and people in small, small ways, or hearing about the big stories that make us cry when we hear about them? So I've received so much love and support as people have heard about the death of our little dog Bella, who's become a part of the Zoom life of CBST in this last 14 months and has been a really important part of my life these last 14 years. And for some of us, an animal companion has been the source of so much strength, so much support. And Bella was with me through very difficult times in my life, a very difficult divorce, was with me and helped me get to a place of being able to meet and fall in love with Randy, was part of our relationship from the very first date we had. Bella and Penny were there. And I want to tell you a story about Bella that fits with this story of the book of Ruth and moving into this place of focusing on Gemilut Chasadim, which is the story of Ruth. When I first got Bella 14 years ago, and it's a long story how I found her, she was a rescue. And I had Penny for 2 months, and I was on my sabbatical in Provincetown. And the day that I got Bella, I took her and Penny on a walk around the pond that I walked around every day, and it was frozen because it was December. Bella, who was intrepid, jumped from where she was walking and jumped into the lake itself, which was frozen, ran out to the middle of the lake, and then the ice broke and she fell in. and I saw her struggling in the ice cold water. I ripped off my coat in the nanosecond I was about to leap into the lake to save her. Penny, who is afraid of water, ran out on the ice itself. She came to the edge of the broken ice where Bella was struggling in the water, and she locked eyes with Bella. She couldn't physically help her out. She's a dog. She doesn't have an opposable thumb. But what could she do? She could offer her these eyes that I could see her looking at Bella as if she was saying to Bella, "You can do this, Bella. I'm with you. You can do this." And Bella tried once, twice, 3 times to get back on the ice. And she finally lifted her whole body weight up, which you know is not easy to do, onto the ice. And the two of them trotted back to the shore. This is in nanoseconds. I picked Bella up with my coat, dried her off, freaked out that she was going to have hypothermia. She pushed me away. She jumped down, shook herself off, and she said, "Okay, what's our next adventure?" How many of us have had that experience of a penny looking into our eyes, being witnesses to our pain and saying, "I know you can do this. I can't make it all better. I can't fix it, but I'm going to stay here by your side. I'm going to help you because my love surrounds you." That's what Naomi did with Ruth. That's what Gemilut Chasadim is. Not to run away just because you feel helpless, you can't make it all better, but to actually be there with somebody. And then, like Bella, to accept it. That's also not so easy. To be the one who could say, "All right, I know I've got to do this myself. Nobody can do this for me, but wow, your love is going to make the difference. Your love, which you're giving me as a gift, and it might be even harder to be able to accept that love, that expression of Gemilut Chasadim, than it is to do it. It depends who you are. We're all different." So as we turn towards the month of Sivan and towards the holiday of Shavuot, when we celebrate the giving of the Torah and we read this book of Ruth and we really celebrate and we examine and we study and we think deeply about acts of loving kindness, how do we in our lives strengthen our muscles to engage in acts of loving kindness, to actively see it as part of our spiritual daily practice? And how do we move ourselves to a place to receive those acts of loving kindness? They are everywhere. And I pray that each of you in these days leading up to Shavuot increase your Gemilut Chasadim muscles, that you strengthen them, both to send them out to people who need it and to receive it from those who love you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.